Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and this is another episode of Ridiculous Loadout. As you may already know, this is a series I started way back when in the Battlefield 3 days, basically whoring myself out for cheap views, running a suggested loadout from one of you in the comments section. So today, Carlton Craft Pro suggested the GSG-9 loadout, this consisting of the G36C with a hollow sight, a laser, and an angled grip, and a flash hider, by the way. Also the P226 pistol with a laser, a med bag, a gas grenade, and a gas mask. Now, this is actually a pretty good setup as far as the game's concerned, but man, did I rage quit a few matches when I was trying to get footage for this loadout. Reason being, the game sucks in my opinion, and there's just very little reason to play it right now. I just don't like it, and I don't see myself buying premium or the DLCs at this point in time. I mean, I made a few rants videos about this, but you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to see that Hardline's player community is tiny and quickly decreasing, and it doesn't take a genius to see that, much fewer people will be buying into premium, and it's a worse value for the money than Battlefield 4 premium, costs the same, and the game itself is frankly not a price peak either. Not to mention that, due to lack of popularity, there are very few servers running the game, much less in the US. In fact, I've recorded this episode on a German server because at the time it was the only thing that suited me. And yes, I am ashamed to say it's a TDM on the block, but this was the most interesting game footage that I could come up with because Blood Money really doesn't have all that much shooting in it, and everything else is just a boring clusterfuck. So, and speaking of, there's only about 5 populated servers in the US at any given time, and 2 of those are the block, so, it's just crap all around. But, yeah, I've gotten away from my point a bit. So, the G36C, right? About as much fun as you can have in any FPS game, and it's been included in all self-respecting FPS games for a while now. Unsurprising since it was introduced in 1995 in Germany. It's a freaking cool assault rifle of the 556mm variety, made by H&K, and it runs on either the standard 30-round box magazines you see here, or the delightful 100-round box, CMAG drum magazines we saw, well, in Battlefield 3, I suppose. And incidentally, the AWS machine gun in Battlefield 4 also has it, so, a lot of fun there. So the C variant is obviously and there are many, it stands for compact, and it's obviously the shortened version of the G36 assault rifle, and that version was introduced in January 2001. But in Hardline, it's an assault rifle available only to the operator class for the cops. Another thing I don't like about Hardline, to use a certain weapon, I have to switch teams because, they are faction specific, and who the hell came up with that? It's annoying as hell. Well, in Hardline it does, I wanted to say standard amount of damage for an assault rifle, but you have to remember there is no such thing as a standard damage model for Hardline. All weapons are balanced differently, and there is no one standard damage model really. There may be similar damage models, but not standard ones. So the G36C does a maximum damage of 25 at 30 meters, which drops off to 15 at 50 meters. So it's a very short drop-off interval, and it also means that out to 30 meters it will kill in only 4 body hits, which is quite the range. In Battlefield 4, damage usually started to drop off at around 8 meters, which is, also surprising when you consider that most of the fights in Hardline happen at closer ranges than in Battlefield 4. A weird balancing, I suppose, but I digress. It also has a rate of fire of 750 rounds per minute, which is actually realistic for once, unlike Battlefield 4, where the G36C seems to have been nerfed into oblivion. Its muzzle velocity is a mostly subpar 500 meters a second, which is actually shit compared to its real-life counterpart, and surprisingly much worse than it was in Battlefield 4 even. It will recoil up at 0.35 degrees per shot with a 1.8 first shot multiplier, which makes it, I suppose, a good candidate for that angled grip and reducing that first shot multiplier even more, and making it a good weapon to tap fire or indeed shoot it in bursts, which you can do in Hardline because this weapon has a burst fire mode, which incidentally the burst fire mode was added to Battlefield 4 for G36C in the spring patch, so now you can burst fire it there too. It will also reload in 2.3 seconds for the tactical reload and 2.85 seconds for the full reload, which is neither bad nor good when compared to other assault rifles in Hardline. Now, as you can see, I've noted all these stats on my gun stat overlay animation here, but I did not include the laser modifier stats here because frankly, I do not know the formula for Hardline's laser modification, and to be honest, even if I did, I'd sure as hell watch up the math, and because there's a lot of things to take into account here, not just hipfire spread and multiply it by the laser stats. There are penalties, stances, gun types, movement speed, all sorts of things to take into account. And actually, if you know me by now, I don't really like to use the laser sight on anything but PDWs in these games, which have a very tight hipfire spread. I think the laser just gives away my position and does way too little to help my hipfire spread on these assault rifles. Not to mention that I ADS when I shoot anyway, because if you spray and pray from the hip, you're already screwed anyway, especially in a game like Hardline where the times to kill are very, very low. But you have to understand also the gas grenade with the gas mask also employs it's a very tactical thing to do in this game because, well, for starters, you can throw down the gas grenade and walk through the gas unaffected by it and, obviously walk through the enemy gas. But another thing that the gas grenade does is it acts like a kind of remote motion sensor where, and I did an episode of Tactical Tips, episode 22, if you want to go watch it, hint hint, in Battlefield 4, where essentially, I was saying that things act as remote motion sensors where you can see the enemy, where the enemy is without actually seeing him, because anyone who walks through the gas will set off a hit marker, so you will know the enemy is right there. And another thing for Hardline is that the gas makes the enemy twice as susceptible to damage, so any damage the enemy receives while he's in the gas will be doubled, so if you shoot him you will get twice the damage from the incoming fire. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ridiculous Loadout, and now because I don't feel like suffering alone, Carlton Craft Pro must also run this loadout and upload it to YouTube, and I'll accept link down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Please rate and share this video as it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.